And if we could just start with the basics, it's pretty simple. Get enough sleep, get some sunlight, put your feet in the dirt, and eat well. Like that
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much sums it up.
yeah,
However, the people who come to me are, I have a couple of different groups of people, and they're typically either my national athletes, national handball players, and things like that who are starting to get into their 50s and 60s and they want to continue to perform, or
yeah,
they have big business and they want to continue to keep their edge. And then
yeah,
I have a large group of women who are about 45 to 65 coming in, and they've got that little extra weight, they're fatigued, they've got
yeah,
pain in their body, their doctor says their labs are fine, but
yeah.
they know something's not right,
Right.
which is awesome because it's not diagnosable. Because if it was diagnosable, because that's what the medical model does, they diagnose and treat with drugs or
Yeah,
surgery.
yeah.
And if it's
Chemicals.
diagnosable, you've been on that path for a really long time and you're already in a
Yeah,
disease state, then that's been going on for a long time.
yeah.
I'm trained to see very subtle changes in physiology based on lab work and specialized lab work that I do with my patients. And then I can look to see what systems need support and we can bring them back to balance through nutrition and lifestyle and exercise and supplementation so that those systems are optimized and they can basically resolve the disease process if they're on that track.
Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people that say, we know Canada, we know British Columbia, where is Prince George? Well, if you know Vancouver, most people do. We are 500 miles north of Vancouver in the center of British Columbia, a beautiful province, absolutely amazing for its nature. Today, a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Brandy Victory. Did I say that correct, Brandy?
You sure did.
So Brandy is can I call you Brandy?
You can. Yeah,
She
absolutely.
specializes in subconscious components of healing. And what does that mean, Brandy?
Yeah, so that's kind of a loaded question. I
Yeah,
guess I could just thumbnail it for you
yeah,
in helping people understand that we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind.
correct.
Our conscious mind is useful because it lets us have this conversation, work computers, drive cars, and make decisions. The subconscious mind is useful as well. However, it's on automatic pilot. So it's controlling our breath, our hormones, our digestion, our attitude, our habits. And luckily, it's doing that because we don't have to think heartbeat, lungs breathe, digestion work, hormones pump. I mean, we don't have to think about all that, which
No,
is awesome.
yes,
Where it gets a little sticky is that the subconscious is controlling our body based on past emotional stressors, belief systems, things we've learned from our mothers, fathers, teachers and preachers, and the things that have happened to us. So when we have an experience that might be emotional or upsetting, especially if we're young and we
trauma.
begin to see the world through the lens of those experiences, traumas, and beliefs. And then when we become older and we're still wearing those glasses, those rose colored glasses that are tainted with our traumas or past experiences, that may not be of service as an adult. And so people find themselves stuck in habits or stuck in patterns, stuck in bad relationships with food, bad relationships with money, unable to be in relationship with another human being or another partner in the way that they love, or just in their own body and having a level of self love for themselves. And so, what I do is help unwind those subconscious patterns, programs, and beliefs so that people can have the opportunity to have a new experience.
So the clients that you engage then that come to you and with certain things that they don't fully understand, and you take them through a process to identify whatever has occurred, happened, or whatever is the driver behind that unconscious reaction or lifestyle or whatever it is. They may not even know it until you engage them in the interaction.
Yeah, yeah, that happens. Sometimes people know exactly what happened when they were 6, and other times people don't know. And honestly, we don't really have to know where it came from. All we have to know is that there's a limiter. There's some reason why I can't reach my next level. There's some reason why I'm hitting this glass ceiling and can't reach that level of income that I really want to reach, or that level of well being. I keep getting stuck in a pattern of I keep getting sick or I keep getting hurt. And so we see what the pattern is. And then through the process, I've been doing this for well over 25 years. Through the process, we begin to unwind it. And the thing is, it's everything is energy that we're working with. And so when someone has a pattern or a problem or an issue or a limitation, that has a specific energy frequency that's keeping them stuck. And if we can shift that energy frequency, if we can shift it on a subconscious level, then the experience no longer exists.
Yeah. And so in everyone virtually has been affected by something that may be not dramatic, but still has an effect on their subconscious, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, that I hate to see I say absolutes, but it's pretty much a guarantee if you're in a human body, you've had some kind of thing that's had an impact on you. And
Right,
the way we process trauma isn't necessarily it's not the trauma that's the problem, it's how we respond to what happened. So it could
right,
be something so tiny. I was coloring on the wall when I was a kid and I got in trouble.
right. Affected that person maybe. So
Yeah.
let me be a bit of an example for you, if I may.
Yeah,
So
please.
I was born in 1940, and
Mm.
I will be 84 in November.
You're
And
doing amazing.
thank you. And I was
Yeah.
born in northeastern Holland. And as you already know, that my parents were married, were in love, were married in 1938. Very quickly had a boy, my brother, and a sister, and they were deeply in love, and they were working on career. They had a place, and life was beautiful, and all things that happened were great. Then what happened is Hitler decided to invade Western Europe, and
Yeah.
Holland was invaded. My dad then was called into the Dutch army, and the last time they heard from him, they had seen him in Rotterdam just before the city was bombed in the middle of Rotterdam, and thousands of people died. So for 5 years they wouldn't know if he was dead or alive. My mother then was
Wow.
pregnant with me. I was born in November the 1st. And then the first thing that I remember as a young boy, 3.5 to 4 years old, is hundreds of bombers in the air, Allied bombers, bombing Germany, in particular northwestern Germany, where all the main factories were that were making ammunition and equipment for the warriors. And
Yeah.
and and in the evenings, my mother would take us outside on a flat deck, not because to look at the beautiful planes. There were hundreds of them. The sound, I can still hear the sound of hundreds of bombers in the air. In the distance, we would see the sky being red, where cities were burning. And then the next thing that I remember is the winter of 1944-45 was called the Hunger Winter, but it also was the coldest winter on record in Holland, Northern Holland.
Okay.
And every morning we would go out into the railroad yards with gunny sacks, my brother, my sister, myself, to pick up anything edible and burnable. And even still today, nearly 80 years later, I can still feel the feeling of hunger and
Wow.
and of cold, because we were had a house, but we only heated one small room because we didn't have the fuel, and it was very hot on the one side and cold on the other. And I still feel that today. And then the other part is that I was diagnosed, or I had counseling for the inner child, well into my 50s, very emotional. And so the next thing that happened is we were liberated by the Canadian Army, April the 12th, 1945. And it made such an impression on me that I always knew I would go to the land of my heroes. And
Wow.
and I did that when I was 23. And but at the same time, just a little bit more background for you to get an idea of who is this
Yeah.
guy, is that academically I was not a success story. I failed grade 3 and I failed grade 7 3 times. They said, should we send them? And my parents were beautiful people. They said, should we send him to the mentally challenged school, or should we get him a job and learning a trade? Fortunately, they said, no, he's not going to go to school. We'll get him a trade. So at 13, I started working in a furniture factory and became a furniture maker. And but I always kind of felt inside that I had failed in a way, although I was quite successful. But in Holland, the way things worked is that as you got older, for one, at 17, I was going to go to Canada, but my parents wouldn't let me. I was drafted into the Air Force for 30 months, and then after that, again, worked in the forest, in the lumber industry, and I was quite successful. But everything that you do in Holland was usually that, okay, I liked what you're doing, and where are your diplomas? Well, I didn't have diplomas. And so I felt I had to start over new again and go to the land of my heroes. And then the other one that I wanted to do is build a lumber mill, because my dad worked in lumber and my grandfather was a master carpenter and I was the furniture maker. And so in Canada, in British Columbia in particular, there's lots of forest and lots of mills. So I took a suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, $150 Canadian dollars when I left Amsterdam, flew into Montreal, took the train to Vancouver, and then I couldn't speak the language, didn't know a soul, didn't have a job. Went to the immigration department and told them that, fortunately it was a German fellow, and I told him I wanted to build a lumber mill. He said, go to Prince George, about 500 miles away. So I took the Greyhound bus to Prince George. That's where I am now. I've been here for 60 years. You can still see the Greyhound station on my side here. And with my suitcase, my 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, I counted my money at least 3 times. I had $25.47. But I had positive attitude, and even still do today, no matter how tough today is, if today's tough, tomorrow will be a better day. The other one, I had passion. Whatever I do, I give it 150%. And the other one is work ethic. I work harder than anybody. Even now at nearly 84, I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I always think I'm late. I always make my bed, and I'm always in a hurry. And so I was quite successful, but even then, already building businesses, I still didn't feel I was successful in a way. And until 32 years after I arrived here in 1997, I went into a bookstore and I picked up a book. Still don't know why. I opened the book. The book's title was Driven to Distraction, written by Dr. Halliwell. And it was about ADHD. And I said, oh my God, that's me. And I took the book and I wrote in the book in Dutch. Now I finally know who I am. And so from there on in, I built companies and did a number of other things. I'm an author. I'm working on my 6th and 7th book. The very active in podcasting. I have about 10 companies, but it's not about that part. But I went through all the ups and downs. One of the books that I wrote is Against All Odds, not how successful is John, but rather all the ups and downs. People talk to me and say, you got to write a book about your life. And it took me, writing books is not easy, as you likely well know. And so it took me about 20 years, starting, stopping, and then I knew if I didn't do it now, it would never happen. So I started writing it, and it took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, 2 years to write it. And then since the time, I also wrote a book about ADHD, ADHD Unlocked. Quite popular, actually.
Nice.
So that's kind of lays out lots of work, for me, that going through the war years and then obviously a number of other things, school, but underlying a lot of it was ADHD.
Totally makes sense. I mean, think about your history, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that then being said, the issues that you raised and that you specialize in, to me, are very important because, that health to me is very, very important. My wife is vegetarian. I'm vegan. Going to the gym, staying fit is very important for me. And then all of that, obviously, mentally to be at peace with who you are is very important, and have the feeling of confidence.
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree.
So, and even at a late age, of discovering that I had ADHD, but still, so I'm very active now. I do a lot of speaking to younger people and people in high schools, colleges, and universities, and then at the same time my books. I enjoy that, and then being quite active on podcasting. Which again is an amazing media, really. We did a lot of blogging here initially, well before COVID, and then did some podcasting, but in the region. And then obviously COVID came, and they say, what do we do now? And then say, well, maybe what we should do is you look at all the televisions companies these days. They have virtual with people from all over the world all at the same time on their screen. You're saying maybe what we should do is start podcasting and then do it virtual, and so we've done that a couple of years now. I think we are at about close to 300 podcasts, and and then knowing, like in your case, speaking totally interacting on issues that are important to me, and you from different areas, and in the meantime close to 10,000 people are likely watching us, and which makes an amazing media, and it's still very much at the beginning, at least in my mind.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Congratulations. It sounds like you've done amazing.
Yeah, so I enjoy it, and saying that age, the other part I don't want to overwhelm you with all the things that I've done. I'm very much into health and fitness, and I'm writing another book. Is that it's here, living young and dying old, and then staying
Amazing.
fit. So
Yeah.
it's coming out in July actually, and but
Congratulations.
I love it,
Yeah. It takes commitment. Yeah.
and with all the challenges along the way, for anybody, is saying that to feel that confidence that and if I do presentation in particular, and people are critical about themselves as to what they look like, who they are, and all those other kind of things, I usually say every individual is special. There's only one of you on this earth, and and have that confidence that somebody is special.
Yeah. It's actually I do a number of things, and the subconscious reprogramming is a part of what I do. Another part of my business is teaching something called centrally embodied, which is women's embodiment class, and it's really about helping women come into having accessibility to pleasure in their body just like it is. Because in
Right.
our culture, I understand you're a man, you may not get this, but it sounds like you have a taste. We're really programmed as women to disregard ourselves, to apologize for ourselves. If it's not airbrushed, perfect, beautiful, Botoxed, filled, and boosted, we're not okay. So, I spend a large part of my time in this realm of helping people consciously and subconsciously and somatically in the body to really be able to find space within themselves to have availability for their ultimate authentic pleasure and truth with a capital T.
Yeah. And I agree
Mhm,
with that 100%, Brandy, and that when
mhm.
I make comments, I don't make them to males or females, both the same. I simply say that, that a lot of people are critical about themselves as to the way they look, the way they dress, or whatever is not quite right. I say there is only one of you on this
Yeah,
earth, and you are special no matter what, male, female, or whatever you want to
totally.
do is possible. And so that's usually my view on it. That's what makes people special, especially as it in our conversation to females in particular, but also males go through the same thing.
I'm sure they do. I just happen to be in a female body this time around, so I kind of understand their story a little bit better.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I think probably all people have some of those conversations that go on, and I love the message that you're sending, and it's so vital because we let these stories and we let these thoughts and these beliefs about ourselves that we're aging or something's wrong with us or we're not good enough or whatever, and it gets in the way of us being able to show up in the most potent powerful way and to be able to access the unique color of the rainbow that we've been brought here to bring to life for the world.
Yeah, and I believe people like yourself that guide people in that way, so that seek that confidence or the understanding of who they are or why they are feeling whatever they are feeling that may be different than it should be. Then that to have that ability is very very important. I found that with me that with my before we were married with my wife, we got into some challenges, which happens in every relationship, but we sought counseling. And then the interesting part about the counselor was I was already in my 50s then, and so the counselor said to us that it would be an idea for him to have a discussion with John in particular as it relates to the inner child, which means that the little boy during the war years never quite reconciled or the fear of losing that one parent, and that's
Yeah.
still very emotional, but very very helpful. And so I see for the males in particular, they are usually reluctant to seek help or counseling or whatever it may be to understand things or at least get a better idea of who they are from a qualified individual that can help them in that direction. Is can be very very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It takes all the things, right? It takes our
Right.
eating, it takes our exercise, it takes our mindset, it takes having conversations like this and working on our inner child or our parts that are not necessarily caught up with our adult life yet.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
For
so,
sure.
uh, so with your practice, then, do you have a website that you can share with our viewers? That how
I
do you
do.
interact, or can you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. It's www.drbrandyvictory.com, and that's Dr. Brandy with a Y. Victory, like the cheer.com.
Excellent.
And on my website, I mean, it doesn't, it's really geared towards people who are looking for more of a functional approach to their health and well-being. So that's what you'll see there, because that is a large bulk of what I do is I help people get their organ systems optimized so that they
Okay.
can function and age well. Yeah.
So what would that then look like, Brandy? That's in particular that, as you already could see from my living young, dying old, is basically the point that I'm
Yeah.
making. If I'm nearly, by the time it comes out, I will be 84, and I say 84 is just a number. The critical part is that quality of life is more important than anything. And there are so
Yeah.
many people, the last decade of the life, whatever that may be, are usually not very good because of all kinds of issues that may affect them. And so the key is that at what point are you going to be more proactive about understanding diet, exercise, the importance of sleep? All those things to me are very, very important.
Yeah, those things are incredibly important. And if we could just start with the basics, it's pretty simple. Get enough sleep, get some sunlight, put your feet in the dirt, and eat well. Like that
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much sums it up.
yeah,
However, the people who come to me are, I have a couple of different groups of people, and they're typically either my national athletes, national handball players, and things like that who are starting to get into their 50s and 60s and they want to continue to perform, or
yeah,
they have big business and they want to continue to keep their edge. And then
yeah,
I have a large group of women who are about 45 to 65 coming in, and they've got that little extra weight, they're fatigued, they've got pain
yeah,
in their body, their doctor says their labs are fine, but
yeah.
they know something's not right,
Right.
which is awesome because it's not diagnosable. Because if it was diagnosable, because that's what the medical model does, they diagnose and treat with drugs or
Yeah.
surgery.
Yeah.
And if it's
Chemicals.
diagnosable, you've been on that path for a really long time and you're already in a
Yeah.
disease state, then that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm trained to see very subtle changes in physiology based on lab work and specialized lab work that I do with my patients. And then I can look to see what systems need support and we can bring them back to balance through nutrition and lifestyle and exercise and supplementation so that those systems are optimized and they can basically resolve the disease process if they're on that track.
Right. And
Yeah.
and and then at the same time, the so what I believe is very important from everybody gets a point in life where they get a signal and saying, have a look at your body because the body is very forgiving, but at the same time you can only abuse it so long, and then things are going. The body wants to be healthy, but in my case, I had. And I was 58. I had a case of diverticulitis that
Oh,
ruptured, and so I came that close, And then I knew, although my wife is vegetarian, I didn't listen all that well. I was not abusive, but not as good as I could have been. And so,
mhm.
and then I was also in the category of, that at the end of the year, we make these commitments. I'm going to do this, that, and the other things, and I'm going to buy a membership to the gym. And then I go for 2 weeks, and then I can find 100 reasons that I'm too busy. And so I did all of that.
Yep.
And so then I said, okay, I'm going to have to hire a trainer. I did that, and started in earnest training. I listened to my wife better. I became a vegan. I'm probably 90-10, I would say, and I like it, enjoy it. Then after being in the gym for about 6 years, and then I was in my mid-60s already, then somebody came up to us and said, "Hey, John, have you ever thought about competing?" I said, "Me? And why not?" So gives me a goal, right? So and we started seriously starting to compete. So that year, it was 2018. I competed in Northern British Columbia. Came in bodybuilding, third in bodybuilding, second in physique. That qualified me for the provincials. Came in third bodybuilding, second in physique. That qualified me for the nationals and the Arnolds. and then COVID came, and now again I'm as I showed you here is that that's a picture of me, and I'm
That's
training
awesome.
again, to go to the Arnold's in 2025 when I'm 85, and and
Wow.
and it makes me just about the oldest competitive bodybuilding in North America. So I
I
love it
imagine. That's amazing.
and I enjoy it, So, but the part that I enjoy about it is fitness, and then in being motivated. I love going to the gym, and that's what I say to a lot of people about. They say, "Well, I'm too old. I don't want to go to the gym." And you don't have to be a bodybuilder and an Olympic. I'm doing that. You don't walk at least 20 minutes a day. Start slowly, and meaning a couple of days a week, then gradually pick it up a little bit to maybe half an hour at least, and then in my diet I became much more active about diet, and then we usually mainly into plant based diets, and then so I do most of the shopping even for my wife. So if I go to a store, I usually walk to the outside, and because in the
Mm.
center is usually food that has been processed, and I don't know what is in it, and so that's kind of what I do, and I love it, and the whole idea is I want to get to 120.
I love it. I love that vision. Sounds like you're doing all the right things. And
Yeah,
the reality is what we're going for here is quality of life
yeah,
until we die. Like
yeah,
as long as I can move and feel fabulous and feel like I'm like making a difference in the world, I want to live my whole life like that. So I'm going to do
exactly.
whatever it takes to ensure that I'm doing the things that it's going to create that affect that change for
Yeah.
that from that experience.
Yeah. And then I think people are getting more proactive in it. Podcasting is helping that process, I believe, to a certain
Yeah.
extent. And then people like yourself that are more proactive, and people are more willing to look at it and do more about it. But, that it's not magic, and it's not, like what you were saying, is quality of life is critically important, and not looking forward to being affected by all kinds of things, and getting a handful of chemicals or pills or whatever every day. It's not good for you.
No, it's not. I'm not saying there's not a place for that stuff, but
Oh no,
for
yeah,
longevity and quality of life, you got to get to the root cause of the problem. You can't just put a pill in and resolve a symptom and expect everything's going to be fine.
right, yeah,
Yeah, doesn't work like that.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's our training. I mean, the reality is that's what we get trained to do in our society. Take a pill, make it better.
yeah.
Sad.
Now, what you're doing is, do you do it online as well? Where are you located, Randy?
I am located just outside Boulder, Colorado, and yes, I
Oh
do
yeah.
work with people virtually as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So that has become much more active as well, particularly after COVID, you believe?
This community.
Yeah, no, I meant, interaction on virtual, on computers or
Oh,
television.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when COVID happened, I was a non-essential worker, so I had to close my practice and I had a in-person practice. And I had done that before in the past, so it wasn't new to me to do that, but it definitely stuck around since.
yeah. And what I see now is some of the people that we had on our podcast is that people that work internationally, on virtual TV, podcasting, or having sessions that they really interacting with people from around the world, which are unique, really.
Yeah, it's really cool what technology has helped us do. It's unfortunate that too many people get stuck behind it and then they forget about taking care of themselves.
Yeah, yeah. So, so if you look in a general way, so the root cause of resolution, what does that really mean?
Root cause resolution.
Right.
Yeah, so it means getting down to the root of what caused the problem. So if somebody has a
Right.
digestive issue, say they have constipation or diarrhea or irritable bowel or ulcerative colitis or any of those things, um, there's a reason for that. And the diarrhea is not the problem, or the food is not a problem. Perhaps there's a food sensitivity. I
Yeah.
do food sensitivity testing. It's not the only thing I do because I don't want to rely on that, because
Right.
ultimately, if somebody has a sensitivity to a food, it's not the food that's a problem, unless it's a true allergy. But typically, it's not the food that's a problem. It's that there's an issue with the gut lining or with dysbiosis, too many bacteria of the wrong kind in there, uh, no motility. So we got to correct the underlying problem. And so that is both a physiological thing. So we got to improve motility, get the bacteria right in the gut and seal the gut lining. And we also have to work on the back end and the consciousness that consciousness creates. And so if we have a physical experience, there is a level of consciousness and an energetic frequency that creates what we experience here in the three-dimensional reality. And so if we're just taking a pill or a probiotic and it's not getting better, there's probably a level of consciousness that's a blueprint for that physical experience. So for people that have constipation, very generally, we can look at what is it they're not wanting to let go of. If you
Yeah.
have low back pain, where is it you don't feel supported in your life? So those
Yeah.
are general, but you kind of get the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and a lot of times is that looking at the whole either diet or whatever a person is doing or not doing that creates those issues, correct?
Diet plays a huge role, but there's also environmental impact. There is, we live in a very toxic world. We are here in America, they're using way more pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides when, especially now that there's genetically modified foods out there, because they're genetically modified so that they can tolerate more pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides. And then when they cut the grain down or whatever it is, they're often spraying even more pesticides on them or Roundup on them to dry them as a drying agent. So we're getting many, many, many doses more than really should be allowed, in my opinion, of these toxins. And then it's getting into the water, it's in the air. Our
Yeah.
soils are depleted because of overcropping, and now we don't have the nutrients in our food that we once did, and we have a high level of stress. I'm not saying it's the highest level of stress of any society, but it's a high level of stress that people live in.
Yeah.
So you could combine nutrient deficiency with stress and with toxicity. What are you
Yeah.
supposed to do about that? And I
Yeah.
really wish I could just tell my patients, eat more salads and you'll be fine. But it
Yeah.
doesn't work like that in our world today.
Yeah. So I picked up, I think, I'm not advertising any magazines, but Consumer Report had an article in, not the last publication, but the one before maybe, that showed that even in the plant foods, there's a high percentage of things that are used in growing it to stimulate it. I was surprised about that. That
Mm.
doesn't. Is there not an obligation to disclose that unless it is organic? What does organic really mean? Does that mean that it is free of toxins and other things that stimulate growth and whatever it does?
Not in our world today. I recently, and this has been ongoing for a few years now, but I recently, over the last year or so, found out about a chemical called appeal. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay. So appeal here in the States, I can only speak to what I know about here. appeal is a chemical that they're spraying on conventional food and organic food that is designed to reduce deterioration. So your apple that should deteriorate in a few weeks will last a month or more. Now, there's lots of good reason they have for spraying this on our food. Less carbon footprint, food lasts longer, people can eat, and their food doesn't go to waste. Yeah, I get it. But I really would have liked to have known that this chemical was going to be, or had a vote, a say on whether or not this chemical is going to be sprayed on my food, because in the processing of it, even though on their website it says plant-based, if you look deeper at how it's processed, there's potentially heavy metals and trans fats in it, and you can't wash it off. So
It,
we're
it,
getting impacted.
it's at the least misleading and maybe fraudulent because if I pick up food like that, I have the understanding that it is natural, and that's why I buy it. If now appeal, how do you spell it?
A
APEAL?
P A P
AP?
A P EEL.
EEL. Okay, so I'm going to check that with my wife. So, but yeah. So when I saw that consumer report, it was kind of a shock to me because that's not what I'm looking for. Like I like to have vegetables, obviously, and I'm usually we buy organic, believing that there is nothing that is not natural part of that food. And the same with apples and all the other things that we buy. And so that to me certainly is an issue. But I saw it in Consumer Report, and I think the week before they had another one of about another thing that directly related to it. So if that is a positive, because I saw it last week, and I should have had it with me here to show it to you, because I took the magazine with me and I had it in my case. But is the good news that it becomes more public? And then at what point do grocery stores disclose the real thing that you're getting?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know that we have an answer. I know here where we're at in the Boulder area, which is pretty progressive when it comes to food, we do have grocery stores that have vowed not to source vegetables and fruits from farmers using a peel. So that's a first step. But for those that don't have access to grocery stores that are doing that, I'd highly encourage people to go to their CSA, go to a farm that's near, buy from your farmer, find out if they're spraying. They don't have to be an organic farm. There are many farmers out there who can't afford the organic certification, but they're really treating their plants and their crops appropriately and care for the health of humanity. So
Yeah.
those are all over the United States, I know.
Yeah. We would be the same in Canada, I believe. I do a
Okay,
lot of
I would
traveling in
think.
the United States. Yeah, because we are very progressive in terms of health and fitness and all the things around that. And it certainly will become one of my questions and my wife's. What does it really mean to the store where we shop that it does not, if they say it's natural or organic, that's what we expect.
That is what we expect, but it's not likely what we're getting.
Yeah. So
And
are we
then
making? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I just heard about this and I haven't done the research yet, but apparently in the vegetable aisle when they spritz and spray
Yeah.
the vegetables to keep them wet,
Yeah.
apparently there's a chemical in some grocery stores, not all, that's being sprayed in that aerosol. So I've got some little bit of research to do on that, because I'm like, okay, another chemical being put on my food.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So certainly questions that we're gonna ask. So that's the encouraging part. The other one that I found encouraging in Consumer Report, they I was very impressed the last two editions that talked about food in particular. So am I optimistic to believe that the customer is becoming more informed and more demanding? Cost of food is a big item in your budget for one. And if you especially are prepared to pay extra to make sure that it is natural, organic, you expect that, or at least being informed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
for sure. It's important to be informed, but the reality is most people, at least here, I feel like believe that if it's on the shelf, it's fine. But what people don't realize is that mindset has caused us to be a sick culture. But people don't realize they're sick because it's been this subtle change in their health and they just say, "Oh, I'm getting older." But in reality, if we look at a picture of people on the beach in 1975 versus the picture of people on the beach today, it's real obvious we're a sick culture. But
yeah,
people don't realize it and they think they can just keep making the same choices and it's not going to be a detriment to their health.
yeah, and your body is an amazing part of who you are, extremely forgiving, but it only will tolerate abuse for so
Yeah,
long, and then
right.
you have to start doing something about it. And even for younger people, I usually say that that the more aware you become, and the benefits of that, if you are, then it not only gives you a better chance of longevity, but also quality of which is equally, if
Yeah.
not more important, is that
Yeah.
to have that quality of life and still being able to do whatever you want to do, if it is being a bodybuilder or going to the gym or being active and so makes so much of a difference, right? So
Oh,
and you know
yeah, absolutely. A huge difference. I mean, Alzheimer's and dementia and those types of terrible diseases that people get when they're older have actually been building up in the system for decades. So now more than ever is reason to begin to take care of yourself. If you can turn some of that stuff around, which you can, because just like you said, the body's resilient. It will respond if we just give it a little attention.
it wants
But
to
we have to
be
start now.
healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, it does want to be healthy. Yeah, it naturally wants to be healthy. If you just give it a little bit of something good, then hey, good things can happen.
And you will like it if you do. Like for me, to be vegan, is not an effort. I love it. So I'm so used to that type of a diet. Thank you to my wife substantially, with all due respect. And then going to the gym. I love it. I love, in my case, going to the gym. I know friends that that go for walks or ride bike, and to feel strong and healthy, and from exercise. Again, what happens to people if they get older? Falling is an issue,
Yeah.
and all that sort of thing. The more you exercise, the more you can, not necessarily like where I live, we have winter 5 months of the year, and snow and all the other things. I may fall, but I get up very quickly and not break something because I'm fit. And so that makes
Yeah.
the difference.
It does. It makes a huge difference. And, for most people, especially if they're not into fitness, starting a new fitness program is really scary and hard and it's uncomfortable. But what I see in my patients that begin something like that, because I send them to trainers and different things, is that within a very short period of time, if there is consistency, they're going to get stronger and they're going to feel the difference in their body. And then that's motivation in itself just to keep going.
And they will recognize it, right? So they're saying, oh my God, you look good. Yeah, what you've been doing, blah, blah, blah. Those kind of things are stimulating. And then once you get, with food, again, healthy food does not mean it doesn't taste good. There's no reason that it can taste very, very good. And the same as going to the gym. Initially, when I was much younger, and I would go to the gym, I was intimidated because all the people were, the guys in particular, there, and then I was embarrassed. I didn't even know how to sit on the equipment and blah, blah, blah. And then I always thought that everybody look at me and say, well, hey, what is he doing here? But not really, because everybody is there for the same reason. And then once you get into the routine, just like you said, is that the feeling becomes very rewarding if you can see the benefits, and you will see the benefits once you stay the course.
Yeah. Yeah. And, granted, it is very hard to overcome our old habits. Like, that's the challenge, right? That's why I work with people and their subconscious is the subconscious program is, oh, I'm tired. I worked hard today. I should just have a glass of wine and watch some Netflix or lay in bed and scroll Instagram. That sounds so much more relaxing than going to the gym right now. And we have to start thinking about the long-term results of the choices that we're making today. Like, who am
Exactly.
I going to be an hour from now? If I leave this conversation and go to the gym right now, I'm going to be in a completely different place than I would
Exactly.
be if I went and scrolled Instagram.
Exactly. And that is, seeing people like us interacting and talking about areas that are so critically important to people in their lives is, and then knowing that people from around the world are watching us, and more frequently all the time people talking about health related issues, diet and exercise, that I believe that people are becoming more proactive, and I can see that in magazines and
For sure.
on YouTube and the other places that we look at. So I believe that gradually, but I agree with what you are saying. If you go to the beach and you look between 1975 and today, we still got a ways to go here, and a lot of
We
the
do.
people are, yeah. So, but there is hope, and by showing the benefits, it hopefully will stimulate others to say, I want to do that too.
I hope so. That's my driving force every day.
Brandy, anything else that comes to mind that you want to share with our guests from around the world?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think this has just been a lovely conversation. It's been really nice getting to know your story, and congratulations on your books and your progress and being 84 and doing a bodybuilding competition. Like, my goodness.
I
It's
love
amazing.
it, so, but the whole idea is, and as you said and as I say, is that staying fit, and what we are looking for is longevity, and first and foremost quality of life, and then whatever you can do to make that journey more pleasurable, the better, and and that's the whole objective.
Yeah.
Brandy, it was
Yeah.
a privilege to have you on my podcast. And let's make
Thank you.
sure we stay in touch.
I would love that. This has just been a blessing. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Brandy. Take care. Bye
Bye.
bye.